Welcome back to the All Out Fighting YouTube channel. For the final time this week, Ned Keating joined by Martin Domin. And Martin, we've just seen one of the best fights in British boxing history, haven't we? I mean, it's a shame that we still don't do 15-round fights anymore because, I mean, I'm sure we both would have lapped 3 more rounds of that up. It was great.
It was, so often these occasions don't quite deliver on the promise, but this one did. We should probably say from the outset that Chris Eubank Jr did indeed beat Conor Benn on points, perhaps surprisingly, all 3 judges scoring at 116, 112, but that doesn't really tell the story of a fight in which Conor Benn arguably performed better than many expected. Chris Eubank Jr probably looked to struggle a little bit with his weight cut, but ultimately deserved winner. And probably, Ned, we're going to do this again.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise us. And again, if I'm saying that I'll take 3 more rounds, I mean, I'll definitely take another 12 as well if they're offered to us. Before we get to the fight, though, of course, there was a few storylines that occurred before we even got to it. Billy Joe Saunders being denied access to Chris Eubank Jr.'s dressing room beforehand. Obviously, Conor Benn was looking for Billy Joe Saunders to go and inspect the wrapping of the hands, wasn't he? But we also saw the arrival of Chris Eubank Sr. as well. And deep down, you kind of knew he was always going to be here. But what a roar that got on the TVs when it was shown on the TVs inside the stadium. You know, the noise from a crowd, I've not heard it before. I mean, I've been at this ground a lot of times as a Tottenham fan and we don't get too much to cheer, but the cheer that went up from that was massive.
It was, and there was, as you said, always the feeling in the back of your mind that he would turn up, but he did call his own son disgusting or disgraceful, the other week for taking this fight. So there was a little bit of uncertainty, but I think we said the other day that the week leading up to the fight seemed to sort of maybe belong to Conor Benn. He got his smaller ring, the weight cut, of course, on Friday for Chris Eubank Jr. But then tonight, if you want to look into these things, it felt a little bit like the pendulum swung a little bit to Chris Eubank Jr. You know, Ben's ploy to have Billy Joe Saunders oversee Eubank's hand wraps didn't work. He didn't get into the dressing room, presumably because he doesn't hold a licence. And then, as you said, when Eubank Sr. arrived with Junior, walking into the dressing room, a huge roar, and you can only imagine what that did for Junior himself. And then, of course, the walk-on, simply the best. It was. I've seen it on Twitter in the week. Imagine if Eubank Sr. turns up, does simply the best. They walk in together, and you know, they kept Benn waiting in the ring as well, and you do just wonder what's going through his head. It's like the crowd were with Eubank, both Eubanks, they both walk on, he's been made to wait, so that set the tone for it. And then, of course, we had the 12 rounds.
We did, and 12 excellent rounds as well. I mean, we could almost probably do an hour on each round individually, but you know, let's kind of just look at the fight as a whole. And I mean, well, to look at it as a whole, you would say that Conor Benn probably started the brighter, but Chris Eubank Jr. really kind of grew into it. And I mean, you know, both of them both said that, or hinted at least, that they would try to get the job done very early on. But thank Christ they weren't, because as we've said already on this, we were treated to an absolute belter tonight.
We were, and it felt very much at the start as if we were getting the fight we expected. Conor Benn said, and that they promised, Conor Benn said he would come out quickly, try and take Eubank Jr.'s head off early rounds. That was expected to be his best chance given he was smaller, and he was definitely swinging in those opening rounds, not always successfully, and I think Eubank Jr. did a good job of, you know, just taking the pace down a little bit, just reading Ben's shots, then started to come into the fight himself, into the middle rounds. At that stage you thought, okay, maybe he'll properly take it away from him, maybe stop him. But there were still moments in there when Benn caught Eubank Jr. with right hands. You just paused for a second. He looked like he may have been struggling a little bit in sort of midway through the second half of the fight. But he was always just that bit better, just that bit stronger, and a deserved winner.
Where do we go from here? Is it a rematch?
It's hard to see what fight each man could take instead. You know, we have to think about Chris Eubank Jr. who wants Canelo Alvarez. Let's be honest, he fought well, but he was taken the distance by someone who's fought at welterweight for most of his career, and not a world-class one that we know of. And so to put him in with Canelo Alvarez seems slightly daft. Plus, Canelo Alvarez is busy for the rest of this year. Conor Benn, you can see, you know, a lot of the times in these fights you have the rivalry beforehand, put on a good display, and there's a lot of hugs or shaking hands. I don't think there was even a word spoken between the two. They had to pose for a picture, facing, you know, away from each other. No word spoken. Conor Benn looked desolate. He, you know, in his dad's arms. I mean, I know fighters lose fights and are upset, but I'm not sure I've seen a fighter more upset to have lost a fight. And on the flip side, Chris Eubank Jr. sank to his knees when the result was announced. You can see what it means, and you can see that the rivalry is still there. So, if it's not a rematch, who do they fight? So I imagine we will probably see it.
And as well, in terms of monetary as well, this was a career high payday for both fighters as well, and on that level it's hard to see what are the other fights for them out there that would drive such money for them. So even if it's in terms of their own ambitions, but equally we know money talks, and we know boxing's a short career as well. So when you get flashed these huge paydays in front of you, it's hard to say no to them. So I'm sure that they get offered similar money again, if not more money next time to take it on again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they both got around £8 million for this one. You can't really do it. You could do it in Wembley, so you can add another 25,000-30,000 on, so that increases the gate, which might increase the purses. But what might be interesting is if they do it again, what are the rules this time in terms of, if Chris Eubank Jr. comes out and says, I really struggle with that weight, does he say, I'll do it again, but there's no rehydration clause? Even getting down to 160 was tough. Add another 6 months on. Is that harder? Does Conor Benn say, I'm just not quite big enough to get to him? So I think still it's not as simple a rematch as one where it's just a straightforward middleweight fight or whatever. So I think there's still some things to be ironed out. But as you said, money does talk.
It does indeed, and of course we'll be all over all the reaction and potential build up to a rematch between the guys. Maybe hopefully later on in the year we'll have that to come as well. But of course, thank you so much for joining us on this coverage this week, for watching it as well. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let us know who you thought came out on top. If you agreed with the decision, the majority decision, or whether or not you think Conor Benn maybe nicked the fight instead. If you did, you probably are in the minority. No offence in that. But thank you again for watching throughout the week. Really do appreciate all the love and support on the channel. But for now, really is goodbye.